Jules Koundé is not as good as you think. You guessed it, he's actually better. He's much, much better. Jules Koundé, when he was signed for Barcelona 1 month ago, I was a little bit worried, I must admit, because I wasn't quite sure what sort of profile of a center back was he. There was something about his style of play I just couldn't put my finger on, and that made me a little bit confused as to precisely what sort of role was he going to be filling in Xavi's new team. So I've been doing a little bit of research, a little bit of studying, and I think that I find out precisely what sort of player Koundé is, and I want to share that with you guys today. So in this new episode of Player Spotlight, let's get down to business and let's talk about Jules Koundé and why can he be perhaps the perfect center back for this unique system that Xavi is trying to implement at Barcelona. What's going on, guys? ¿Cómo están? And welcome to a new episode of Player Spotlight. Today, of course, we have Jules Koundé. And before getting into the strengths and weaknesses of this player, I just want to get you to know Jules Koundé a little bit better and his style of play. So let's compare him to a player perhaps you may know a little bit better, and that is Virgil van Dijk. Yes, Koundé plays a lot like Van Dijk, and let me explain you why. Koundé is a player that isn't that aggressive. Normally, you would tend to associate a player like Van Dijk to be this monster inside the box, trying to crawl everything up and stop the opposition from scoring on goal. But instead, he's much more calm and relaxed. If you really see his style of defending, he's a center back that rather imposes himself by being in the right position at the right time and knowing which tackles he can win, and that is precisely what also Koundé does. If you take a look at his partnership with Diego Carlos last season with Sevilla, it was almost impeccable. It was really something else because Diego Carlos was the other side of the coin, everything that Koundé didn't have. Diego Carlos is a player that is completely nuts, a player that goes for every single challenge, a player that likes to go to the ground and be very violent in the way that he plays. And Koundé is the opposite, he's more calm and collected. For this, we can take a look at his tackles and interceptions, and for that, of course, we're gonna go to a little bit more of an in-depth analysis. So here, as you can see on screen right now, let's find out how Koundé played last season in La Liga with Sevilla. Because if we take a look at his tackles, and like I mentioned before, his interceptions, let's go here, take a screenshot of this. You can see that his tackles per games is actually not that big of a deal. Like tackles per game, 1.3. Let me circle that for you so you can have a better look. Tackles per game over here, and you have 1.3. That's not that much. I was looking at the wrong camera. Like similar to Virgil van Dijk, these are players that I would call low volume defenders because they know precisely which duels they should win and which duels they won't. They don't go to the ground, they don't get booked often. There are players normally that are very intelligent and very aware of their situation and against which rivals they're going to be playing. I believe this takes a lot of preparation, of course, beforehand, and that is one thing that Koundé, of course, has a lot of it. If you take a look at, of course, the interceptions per game as well, you can see that there are some games that he doesn't even do an interception because maybe sometimes there doesn't even need to be an opportunity for him to make one because he's already in the right position. This is a player that is very intelligent in the way that he plays, and that for me is the most important thing that we have with Koundé. He seems athletic, he's rapid, he's fast, he may not be the tallest, but he jumps very high, he has all the physical attributes, but it doesn't matter because even with that part of his game, that's just a bonus. Koundé is more about the brains actually than the physical side to his game. He's very, very, very intelligent in the way that he plays, and that makes him such a deadly proposition next to someone like Araujo. And Araujo is very physical, and Koundé can be the smart guy next to him. Now that you all know what Koundé can bring as a defender for Barcelona, let's explain his very first strength, and that is positional awareness. To be a player like Koundé that has particularly low volumes of tackles and interceptions, you need to have good positional awareness. The reason of this is because, you're putting basically all your eggs in one basket. The basket that is the fact that you understand, okay, this duel, I can win it. But what happens when one day you, let's say, get confused? Or you simply lose a little bit of concentration and you don't register the play in your field of view and a player just overlaps you. Well, that is where it's going to be a little bit of a problem. So you always need to be concentrated and focused. And in Sevilla, perhaps that is a thing, a fault that could be remedied because of the way that they play. But at Barcelona, that could be a little bit more difficult. Let me explain to you why that might be the case. So if we move back again into, well, this side screen, you can see here I have pulled a game between Sevilla and Atletico Madrid from last season, and this is a typical 4-3-3 that Sevilla would play, that Lopetegui would implement. So here you can see Jules Koundé playing as the right-sided center back, and if we move into the average player positions, you will see, let me take a screenshot so just it's a little bit better, and you can see that Koundé with the number 23 is going to be positioning himself almost as a right back. He plays very high up, and when I say he, Lopetegui with Sevilla plays very high up with Montiel over here, and this is going to be his right back over here, and this would be Koundé. So let me just put Koundé right here so you can all see. When you have a high line like this one, that for instance Sevilla implemented last season against a team like Atletico Madrid that are going to sit back a little bit, we all know what Atletico Madrid under Simeone likes to do, right? You are going to be betting yourself that your center backs are fast, or at least they can defend when you have a one-on-one. So Barcelona will find themselves in a situation like this one a lot of the time. You will find yourself with a line like this. Let me just put it off another color so you can see better. So this may be the line of Atletico Madrid, and you might find Morata right here, or Morata wasn't last season there, right? Sorry, let's put Joao Felix. Let's put Joao there. Joao might be just waiting in between Koundé, in between Diego Carlos, to see when he will just try and step into the offside and try to get a run in, right? Try to look for the space or a pass from De Paul or be at the time Marcos Llorente, right? If that happens, Koundé will try to step out of the line, right? To try and block Joao Felix. But then, in a team like Sevilla, if that were to happen, if Koundé was to come further forward, if Koundé number 23 wants to come further forward, one of Delaney here, number 18, would be dropping inside to cover more space that Koundé is leaving out. They have a proper DM that doesn't get involved in the playmaking, well, let's say playmaking side of their game. So they have one player dedicated particularly to just defending, and that's one side that Barcelona doesn't have. Barcelona play very high up with those defenders, and normally Busquets plays very high up, and they're simply not gonna do that. They're simply not gonna have a player that will be occupying that space and can provide that cover for someone like Koundé in that particular position. So you need to be very careful what you're gonna be doing there, and particularly Xavi, that is also gonna be playing with a almost back three like formation. You might want to have a little bit of security in that area of the field. So if I go to a recent game that I analyzed in our channel, let's go to Barcelona's matches recently, and let's find the game against Valladolid. You will see the average position of Jules Koundé was average position. You can see that Jules Koundé was playing as a right back most of the time. You can see where Jules Koundé was positioned. He was almost positioned exclusively through the right hand side, and there you had the backup of someone like Araujo, you had someone like Eric Garcia, but if you look at Busquets, he doesn't drop that much. You see the halfway line, he doesn't drop that much. So that's where you want to have someone like Koundé playing alongside someone like Araujo to try and remedy those situations. That is why perhaps Xavi tried Koundé as a right back, and that is why perhaps he still wanted a right back, because if you're going to be playing Koundé as a center back, you need someone to cover that area, because simply Busquets isn't going to do it. Koundé, if he's not really going to be playing a right back full of the time, he should be good enough, but you still need someone that can cover whenever he tends to drop a shoulder and tries to get the opposer striker offside. Another aspect of Koundé's game that is really a strength to his game is the fact that, well, he's very good in aerial duels. Despite being just 5'11", well, he's a very good defender when it comes to heading the ball. More than just height, and when it comes to leap, is once again the brain that you can have and know exactly the intelligence to sniff out the right moment so you can jump and win those particular aerial duels. Here, if I show you the aerial duels of Koundé once again, we go to, let's say, last season in La Liga with Sevilla once more. You can find that his aerial duels are that of 2.461% won. That is good. That is really good for Koundé, particularly for being someone who is very small. And if we add that to Barcelona, that, well, you have limited defenders and limited qualities when it comes to defending from set pieces, that just makes it such an important signing. Someone else that can add you, even if he's playing as a right back. Koundé can be protecting the long balls that they will be trying the opposition to get into one of the wingers. That is particularly a way that teams try to bypass the pressing of Barcelona. One aspect of this area of his game that's actually not that good, it's scoring. It's scoring with his head. He might have set up twice 2 goals for Barcelona already. He has 3 assists in the last 2 games for Barcelona, which is incredible for someone of Koundé's standards, a center back to say the least. But when it comes to actually putting the goal into the back of the net, he hasn't been that lucky. He has an XG of 1.17 and has failed to convert every single chance that he had last season. So he scored 0 goals with headers. And someone, like I said, is very similar to him, another low volume defender, Van Dijk, had a similar XG of 1.29 and he converted that to 5 goals. So Koundé, of course, he still could improve a little bit more, but if he still managed to set up goals like we've seen so far, maybe that's an area of his game that he's changing. So let's put an asterisk next to that, because that might be one that right now is a weakness, but in the future it might be a very big strength. Now let's just say that Koundé is defending and is the last man standing. Well, thankfully his last and potentially one of his biggest strengths is his 1-1 ability. He's very good on 1v1 duels, like I mentioned before. His volumes is very low, but what happens when that duel is when you have to run, when you have to be that man trying to get the other one off the ball to maybe, hopefully, avoid a goal? Well, 100%. Koundé is still very good. Like I mentioned, his awareness, his composure, all of that is really good. The bonuses of his pace and his strength, of course, we get a machine. He's deadly at winning those running battles. And since he's also very technical, as we've seen live, if you have seen the eye test, Koundé is very good with the ball as well. And he can quickly turn this defense into an attack. And when you're Barcelona, when you're having with a very high line, you want to recover the ball very rapidly, and also you want to be able to convert that into the attack equally as fast. And Koundé, perhaps this is one of the reasons why Xavi really wanted him in the squad, because unlike Araujo, which Araujo, for instance, is very good also in these 1v1 duels, and I could say perhaps even better than Koundé, he's not as good as in the ball. But Koundé is. Koundé has the speed to get into position and the speed and the strength to get the player out of the ball and then get it back. And I wanted to show you this in particularly the game against Sevilla. That once again, I just simply think is the best way for us to explain how good Koundé has been, because for me, that game this season has been the best that I've seen Koundé. In the game against Sevilla in La Liga, we take a look at the average position of the players. Let's go to Sevilla over here. Koundé here, if you take a look, number 23, you can see just how much area he covered on the right hand side. He played in this game as 2 different positions. So what you see on the left side is when he played as a left center back, and here on the right is when he played as a right back. And you can see here when he played as a right back just how much ground he covered in this area of the field. This is particularly important because when you see that Rafinha was mostly the guy occupying the right hand side, Koundé had that ability to slot into that position, even when Araujo was in the field. That means that Koundé has not only the know-how to get into that position, the awareness like we mentioned before, but also the speed. And since Barcelona, well, did not concede a single goal, kept a clean sheet, I can tell you that he won plenty of duels in that game as well. And last but not least, what I really wanted to talk about is a little bit more of Koundé with the ball, because Koundé with the ball, people are saying that he's more than capable to replace Eddie Garcia or Andreas Christensen, but there's a reason why we haven't seen so far Araujo and Koundé play together as the center backs. Because Xavi is not as confident that Barcelona's creation from deep can rely particularly just on Koundé. I think that if you compare Koundé to Eddie Garcia and Christensen, yes, you will find that they have similar touches, and in fact you will see that they have similar amount of touches. The accurate passing is particularly the same, but what Christensen and Eddie Garcia do that Koundé don't is that they're more of a risk takers. Since they're more confident in the way that they play precisely, they'll be looking for those balls that will break the lines. In between the lines, they'll be looking for running players, and that comes also from, let's say, the way that Barcelona taught someone as young as Eddie Garcia or Andreas Christensen has learned through the traits of the game. Koundé needs to learn a little bit more in systems like this, and perhaps that is where he needs to work a little bit more on his long range passing. Short passing, incredible. Long range passing needs to work a little bit. But there's one aspect of his game though that is, let's say, it's unique. And that's his crossing when it comes to looking for people in the final third. We saw the ball that Koundé gave to Lewandowski against Sevilla, and that's a trait that Koundé has very, very on point. He has done that for Sevilla multiple times last season, and that is something that of course we need to be taking a look at. So in fact, if I'm really thinking of where Koundé fits best for Barcelona, if we take a look at the ball progression, we take a how good he can be in 1v1s, if we take a look at his positional awareness and how he can win aerial duels, I think that as a right back right now for Barcelona in the system that they're trying to implement, I think that is where Koundé plays the best. So don't be surprised that for the big occasions, we see someone like Koundé playing right back, Araujo playing center back, and then someone like Eddie Garcia or Andreas Christensen playing also as part of that back too. But Koundé is a very good hybrid of a player and someone precise or someone perfect for what Barcelona needed at this moment. Still, Koundé, when it comes to deliveries from wide areas, for instance, as a normal, natural right back that can go attacking, he lacks a little bit. And when it comes to carrying from deep as a center back, he can get a little bit twisted and confused and sometimes carry the ball and do magnificent things like he scored against Barcelona last season. But sometimes he will just completely lose the ball and it will end up in a counter-attack. So Koundé still needs to work on a little bit things to his game. If I really do think he's the perfect mold for a right-handed center back in a back three. And I think that is where Koundé plays at the moment in this Barcelona system because we're quite isometrical. So Koundé, what do you think of him? Do you think he's a perfect center back / right back for what Xavi wants right now in this team? I think he is. So that is why I'm a little bit surprised of what Koundé can bring to the table. I was not expecting a player like this. I really was expecting just a proper center back, but it really shows to see that I don't know that much about football and we need to continuously keep learning about players, about the game. So hopefully you have enjoyed this video. Hopefully it had served to you something good. Hopefully you learned something that you didn't before. And yeah, drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Ciao, ciao.